there's all these analogies that you can make for building a football team. The most famous one that Yurko is using a lot on Carmen and Yurko is you're building a house and you lay the foundation first, and the foundation is your lines, right?
He's got the roof already and set to go, and he's got the walls all built, but he hasn't poured the foundation yet.
Right.
So I'm still waiting for the foundation to get poured in the acquisitions.
But they weren't given the foundation first, right? Like they came in and they said, all right, you go to the builder and you're like, I want heated bathroom floors and a heated driveway. And that's your quarterback, right? Like, to me, that's the luxury item, right? Like, that's your core. They were given the quarterback first in Justin Fields, and they tore everything down last year except for Justin Fields. And so they have Justin Fields, and right now they believe in Justin Fields. Well, what's the best way to figure out if Justin Fields is the guy if you only have 1 year to figure out if Justin Fields is the guy? You surround him with weapons. And so they did that. They went out and they believe Chase Claypool will be an asset. DJ Moore will be a tremendous asset for him. You get another tight end who can maybe actually create separation from linebackers and whatnot in Robert Tonyan from the Packers. And so they have weapons now for Justin Fields. That, to me, is the foundation. To me, the foundation of this team is finding out whether or not Justin Fields is the guy. So are they doing it backwards? In my opinion, no, because Ryan Poles might end up being a great GM, and he might end up being able to find great offensive linemen, but he might also understand his weaknesses, and his weaknesses might be finding cornerstone defensive players. So he might have gone to Matt Eberflus and said, what do you need? And he goes, I need the best coverage linebacker that there is. So he goes, okay, Tremaine Edmonds, here you go. Like, we run a 4-3. So what do you need? Like, I need a good coverage linebacker. Like, all right, here you go. Go ahead. And then here's the thing. If Deron Payne would have been out there and they wouldn't have gotten him and he would have signed somewhere else, then I'd be like, okay, well, maybe you're doing this wrong. There wasn't a lot of good defensive linemen available.
Well, I think that's also where you look at the draft, and that's certainly where Ryan Poles can address the defensive line within the NFL draft. That is certainly the case. You can use the 9th overall pick. You could use your second round picks. You have 2 of them. You can go shopping for defensive linemen in those spots. I think the one piece where in free agency, I was surprised they didn't spend big on was offensive tackle, right? Like, finding a offensive lineman to solidify the group that's proven, locked down, everyone knows he'll be a starter here for years to come. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised he didn't go that route. With that said, I agree with you with the idea that saying it's backwards, suggesting the way he's building this team is backwards, is not the case. Because in today's day and age in the NFL, the number one most important thing is the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Number 2, it's getting the weapons for that quarterback. Look at all of the teams who are fighting for championships, who are trying to get to the Super Bowl. Those teams have a quarterback, and they all have number 1 wide receivers or a number 1 receiver. And the reason why I say the caveat of the or receiver, look at Kansas City. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver who's Kelce, a stud, but they have Travis Kelce, who's the best tight end in football. Mm-hmm. He's a number 1 receiver. And when you look at the top teams, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City, all of the top teams, Philadelphia, San Francisco, top teams in both conferences, they all have number 1 wide receivers. Ryan Poles went out and acquired a number 1 wide receiver without having to overspend in free agency and without having to spend your top draft pick in the top 10 picks of the draft on going and getting a wide receiver. He accomplished that through the trade of trading the number 1 pick. So to me, Ryan Poles is not building backwards. He's doing exactly what you should be doing when you're building a team in today's NFL. You have to get a number 1 wide receiver to pair with your young quarterback to allow the quarterback to continue to develop. And now there's more work to be done, but to suggest, and the questions that were asked of Brad Biggs in the Chicago Tribune earlier today, that the first question from Brian N. in the mailbag suggesting that the process that Poles has taken is backwards and that he's, quote, not impressed with Poles to this point is so surprising to me, because the biggest glaring issue with the offense last season was that Ryan or Justin Fields didn't have a number 1 wide receiver. He didn't have someone who's reliable to go make plays for him, to get first downs, to create separation, to score touchdowns. Now he has that guy in DJ Moore. So now Darnell Mooney becomes a better wide receiver because he's in a better spot. He's your number 2. This is going to help the offense. Chase Claypool is now your 3rd option. That's great for Chase Claypool, and hopefully he succeeds in that role. But to me, Ryan Poles is not doing this backwards. He's doing exactly what he needed to do to help out his young quarterback.
Well, also, now hear me out. Maybe it's a wild theory. Maybe he likes the offensive line that they have. Maybe he likes Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins. Maybe he likes Lucas Patrick. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they add a guard or 2, but maybe they actually maybe he sees potential in these guys. Braxton Jones was a 5th-round pick. He played really well. Tevin Jenkins has the potential to be, he's an athletic freak. When he's healthy and when he was out there, he was playing really well. Maybe they like these guys and they think, hey, maybe we add a couple guards and we add a couple rotational pieces, and maybe we just build this line with depth and guys that can step in. And lines take time to mold. Lines take time to come together. And so maybe another year with this group and they'll get better. I don't think he's in a rush to rebuild this offensive line, because then you wouldn't have seen him spend $1 billion on linebackers, right? Because if the emphasis was all these guys suck and we need every position, like the fans may think that, but he's not listening to the noise. He may see that these guys have potential and give them another year together to figure it out. And that may be what the case is. And then they go, and at number 9, if Tyree Wilson's there or Miles Murphy's there or another defensive end of some form, and they go that route. And then he takes offensive line in the 2nd round when they have their 2nd round picks. So you could do that. It's just a matter of what he feels. And from what I've heard from the press conferences is that he might be okay with the majority of these guys on the offensive line.
Well, you and I are like 2 of the only people in the city who suggest that the offensive line wasn't atrocious last year. Everyone else says it's the number 1 issue with the team, offensive line. They led the NFL in rushing. I know a lot of that was the quarterback, but they can run block. And then also, Justin Fields wasn't getting killed like he was the year before. And the more that Fields feels comfortable with his receivers, the less time he'll have to spend in the pocket waiting for guys to get open. Thus, he'll have the ability to not face so much pressure like he did 2 years ago. 312-332-3776. What do you think? Is Ryan Poles building this backwards?